even the worst case scenario, once you try, is infinitely better than never having tried at all. Hello, sup sluts? Hi guys. I am coming to you on this special video. I was initially gonna film this on my iPhone, but then I was like, no, my iPhone videos are only about the revolution. I must maintain iPhone video integrity. So I'm filming it with a real camera in my real setup, but this is actually not super related to what we usually do here at The Financial Diet, but it is related to me and to my life and to what's important in my world and therefore in yours, which is to say that I wrote another novel, bitch. Hello. It's called The High Dive. It is out May 27, everywhere books are sold here in the US and in Canada. And if I could ask you to do one thing, it would be to pre-order the book at the link in the description. If it's at all interesting to you or someone in your life, it would mean the world to me and the team that I work with on these books. And I promise you it is a very, very good read. So you will not be disappointed. Here's the cover in all her glory. Same painter as A Perfect Vintage. Much like myself, the artist Elizabeth Lenny, simply addicted to slaying, never not slaying with her beautiful oil paintings. But yes, I wrote another romance novel. Here's the back cover description if you want to give it a quick read. Pause. But as you can see, we are this time setting sail on a many-stop yacht trip around the Mediterranean leading up to a wedding. This is an enemies to lovers / somewhat second chance story. We have our protagonists who are, let's just say, not fond of each other. And then, I don't know, if you've read a romance novel before, you might know that they end up a little bit more fond of each other than they started. But this one is, I would say, actually closer to The Financial Diet in spirit than my first one because it deals really explicitly with money, class, socioeconomic status, the work choices we make. Our two protagonists were both the scholarship kids in an otherwise very wealthy group at Columbia University, and they've taken very different paths. She is now doing political communications for a very progressive political party and still a brokey, and he is, a private equity psycho. Many such cases. He's gone into being a managing director at a really, really savage private equity firm that is, messing things up left and right in our country, as many of them do. And she is not a fan of him for personal reasons, but also now ethical / professional reasons. And all of this plays a very important role. But the protagonist is someone who feels very out of place in such a wealthy, sort of disconnected from reality space. A fun fact about me, your girl Chelsea Fagan, is that when I was younger, when I was in my 20s, I, by chance, by hook or by crook, fell into a social group that contained billionaires, the scions of billionaires. Some of them were actually billionaire with a B. Some of them were just extremely wealthy. But, we're talking mid-tier, couple $100 million, nothing to write home about. But I did end up with that social group for a while. And let me tell you, it did a number on ye old mental health. It was really, really bad for my mental health, for my confidence, for my credit card debt. But, it did teach me a lot. And I also, as a lot of you might know, I have historically worked for very high net worth families. I used to work at a yacht club, all of which took place when I was not killing it financially. So for me, the feeling of having real class anxiety in a social group or in a professional setting is something I have a ton of experience with, and there's a lot of tidbits from my real life in there. Notably, one thing ultra rich kids love to do, get married at Burning Man. I've had multiple people on my social media feeds get married at Burning Man, and every time I say, I mean, it really takes all kinds in this world because anyone who knows me knows that is truly the opposite of my vibe. But yeah, so I'm just really excited about it. I think it's really good. I really enjoy reading it. And I just want to go on just a quick tangent that I did address a little bit in my newsletter, which I'll also link in the description, but I just want to talk about here on video, which is really my message to you guys as a community. Obviously, I'm really passionate about money. I really care about talking about money, about politics, about all these things. There's a lot of that in this book. But one thing that I just really want to be kind of, if people are following me for anything or get anything from me, especially women, I really just want it to be, we are put on this planet to vibe. We're put on this planet We're also put on this planet to do other things that are less fun. We're also put on this planet to be citizens of functional democracies. We're here to, unfortunately, work. We're here to pay taxes. We're here to do a lot of other things. But I think we often forget as women that we are really put on this earth to vibe and to do what seems interesting or appealing to us, and to not wait around for either some unnamed force to come and give you permission to try the thing that you want to do, or to already be really, really good at it to give it a try. I think especially in adulthood, those things increasingly hold us back. And, for me, as you guys know from my first romance novel, I invested in it myself. I'll link you to that video in the description. I ended up spending a lot of money on doing it. I am doing it again myself this time for the American edition. I have a lot more experience now. The first novel ended up being pretty successful. There's actually some cool news I can't quite share yet, but suffice to say, it worked out well enough that I did not have to spend nearly as much money this time, because I just had already figured everything out. I had already gotten a lot of, my logistics set up. I didn't have to do any kind of print testing. I'm not wasting money on things that last time didn't really sell books. So all in all, I definitely learned a lot. I also have my international partners ready to go this time, so I don't have to waste any time looking for them. So all of that is to say, from a financial perspective, I am much more prepared this time. I really understand the space. It's going to be a lot more economical. But nonetheless, I am still in America. I'm publishing this myself. I'm producing all of the events myself. I'm going to go on a book tour, which I'll have more information about, which will be shared on social media very shortly, maybe by the time this airs. And, doing things myself in a space that can often be, very gatekeepy, like creative fields, can feel intimidating at first. Will not deny that, but I also think not only is it, do you run the chance of it going very well and it becoming a new part of your life as it has in this case, but you also run the chance of greatly increasing your self-confidence, because you've proven to yourself that you're willing to go out and try something, that you feel worthy of investing in it, whether that's financially or in terms of time or in terms of your personal energy, that you're not waiting around for anyone else to give you permission. And I think that there are so many areas in life that, whether they are creative in nature or professional in nature, or even just like a hobby or even a sport or a physical activity that we want to get better in, to me, the saddest words in the English language are I wish I could do that, about things that you can definitely do, that you can definitely try. And the number of people who have told me over the past few years, really since I started TFD, honestly, I wish I could start a YouTube channel. I wish I could, start a business. I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that. And my refrain is always, you can. Now, be smart about how you're, spending money. If it's going to be an experiment, make sure that you go about it thoughtfully, and that you do a proper business case, and that you make a budget and all of those things. But a lot of times the things that we're talking about, I really want to do this stuff, don't even cost money at all. They're things like, for example, learning a language. The amount of people who go their entire lives saying, I would love to learn another language, I want to learn this language or that language, but never actually really invest in doing it, to me is a little tragic, because we now live in a country, we live in a society and an era of technology where you can basically learn any language for free. In fact, you can learn you can take a huge portion of Ivy League classes online for free in any discipline that you want. There's just never been a time when trying things, being a multidisciplinary person, embracing hobbies and creative acts that feel interesting or fulfilling to you have been more available to us, and yet many of us still hold ourselves back for reasons of, and I think they vary. Sometimes it's purely financial, but also sometimes it's that we feel embarrassed or nervous. We don't want to be bad at something. We don't want to fail at something. And I won't lie and say that you are going to have a 100% success rate or that it's always going to be amazing. But I think that even a failure is infinitely better for not only that individual attempt, but also you as a person, than never having tried. Never having tried, I think, is really, really detrimental to the soul. So whatever it is, whatever creative act or hobby or sport or professional adventure that you're thinking about, really give yourself permission to try, and give yourself permission to learn as you go, to learn in public, to show up to a workout class and be the worst one there for the first couple times, or to go to a country and, eke out a few words in the language that you've been practicing, or ask someone if they'd be willing to have the conversation with you in that language because you're practicing. Show up for yourself, and that is really kind of my message generally. And the other thing that I want to say is an important message. Like, a lot of people will sometimes, because I now have, not a ton, but I do now have a fair amount of people who have found me or follow me through fiction writing, who found my first book, who are reading the second one, etc. I think for a lot of people, there is a level of dissonance of like, oh, your day job is like you do a financial education channel and then you're just writing spicy romances on the side. And I think, well, first of all, let's be very clear that most authors have day jobs. It's a very limited number of authors who are just authors in one discipline, and that's all they ever do. And if that's you, hats off, but it's very, very difficult to make a full-time living. So most authors that you read, even if they publish a lot of books, are probably, slinging it at some day job. But that being said, I think there's also a lot of power in accepting, similarly to giving yourself permission to try something that seems appealing to you. I think there's also a lot of power in really embracing the fact that you are a multifaceted person, that you can be a multidisciplinary thinker and worker, that you can have many phases of your life, many chapters of your career, that you're allowed to do and be multiple things, and that they do not have to come at the expense of each other or cancel each other out, and that comes in terms of all kinds of identities, right? I mean, I'm personally not planning to have children, but, most of my friends do, my sister does, most of the women in my life do, and for them, recalibrating their sense of self to integrate mother, and whatever other titles they may hold is a big part of that journey emotionally and mentally. And I think that that is an example of a time when life forces us to really rethink our identities in a way that we don't usually do. But I challenge all of us, myself included, to really create moments in our life that are not externally imposed, where we challenge ourselves. What is my title in life? How do I want people to know me? What do I want to bring to the world? How am I introducing myself? How am I showing up? And I think that there can be a fear in being too many things. And, I think there's often too much of a focus in, we just want to, go all in on one thing, and that is who we are, and that becomes a huge part of our identity. But in my experience, over leveraging yourself in any one aspect of your identity, whether that's professional or personal or creative, can be, I think, really toxic, because then we become extremely dependent on that identity and therefore very dependent on other people's validation of it, our success within that discipline, our external perceptions. And I think that the more we diversify our sense of identity and the more we feel, this is something that I do and I'm passionate about, this is something I do and I'm passionate about, but I also have other things, the less those individual things are able to really alter or undermine our self-esteem if something doesn't go perfectly. And that's always going to be the case. For me, especially since diversifying into being a fiction writer, when things aren't going exactly as I want them to in that space, I have a lot of self-confidence to draw from the financial diet, or from, my role as a wife or as a friend or as, a hostess in the home, or the other things I like to do. And similarly, vice versa, when things have been really difficult at TFD, and they have. I've had really, really difficult times that have really been taxing emotionally, physically, mentally. I get to say, this really sucks and it really hurts, but it's not all of who I am. It doesn't mean that I'm not worthy, because I know that I am much more than this one thing. And sometimes we cannot financially escape the reliance on one main thing to define us. That's kind of inevitable for a lot of us. And it would be a lie to say that I don't still heavily rely on the financial diet. Financially, I do, but it's at least a smaller overall piece of the pie that is who I am as a person. So anyway, I say all of this to say the book is coming out May 27th. It's called The High Dive. It's an enemies to lovers romance novel. You can pre-order it at the link below. You can also apply on NetGalley to be an early reader. You can also follow me on social media, where I'll be posting all about, the tour and things that I have coming up associated with the book. But that is just a small part of my overall message, which is that whatever the thing is that you have been thinking of doing, dreaming of trying, please give yourself permission to try, and really remind yourself that even if it ends up not being for you, or you aren't really good at it, or you don't end up enjoying it, or whatever the case may be, or if it's an outright failure, because sometimes things are, financially or otherwise, just remind yourself that even the worst case scenario, once you try, is infinitely better than never having tried at all. There are so many things in this life that rob us of the ability to do what we want to do. Don't be one of those things. Don't rob your own self of doing something that you could try just because you're nervous or embarrassed or don't feel worthy of it. Please give yourself that permission. We are put on this earth to vibe. Stop denying yourself the vibes. And as I said, you're allowed to be many things. You're allowed to try many things, and you're allowed to have many identities and many chapters. Do not limit yourself. Do not ever impose that external narrative of I'm this, I'm not that. You are many things, as am I. We're nothing if not, curious little creatures put on this earth to figure it out as we go. And to me, there are two deaths. There's the one where you actually die, but then there's the death where you stop trying, you stop being curious, you stop wanting to learn new things, or stop giving yourself permission to enjoy yourself. So, stave that second one off until the first one. Don't give yourself two, because especially, once we reach a certain age, it's very, very easy to just stop, and never do that. Never be that person. You deserve everything. You deserve the world, and you deserve The High Dive, a romance novel by Chelsea Fagan, out May 27th, everywhere books are sold. Mwah! Mamma mia. All right, bye guys.